Hey, what's going on? Welcome.
Hey,
Hey guys, welcome to an interview. It's been a while since I've done an interview, but today we're joined by GoblynTeeth. Uh, you can explain a bit about the name and your real name if you want to use that. It's totally up to you. But today
yeah,
we're going to be chatting. GoblynTeeth, if you guys didn't know, if you guys haven't seen, is going to be one of our guest judges for the PokePla Contest currently. But if you've participated in any other contests in the past couple years, I guess you probably have seen his work as an entrant. So we'll talk some more about that today as well. But go ahead if you just want to introduce yourself.
yep.
Yeah.
My government name is GoblynTeeth. There's no actual story behind it. I just have parents that have bad naming conventions. My name's Nick.
Mm.
Actually, the name GoblynTeeth, I think, was from playing Monster Hunter. Like, you have to come up with a character name, and I tried using Goblin, but I wanted to spell it with a Y for a little flair. And I don't know how the teeth part got added, but I just decided to use it for everything, and it stuck, sort of. And I'm only on Instagram, so not a lot of reach for it.
Yeah, well, there's well, on that note, yeah, if people want to check out your work, there is a link to your Instagram down below, so people can check that out. They should, but yeah, I guess it's like that situation that a lot of people were in, I don't know, a decade or so ago, where they had their old like AOL screen names
Yep.
from like
Yeah.
back in the day, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, either stick with that or I got to come up with something entirely new.
Yep. I just, off the top of my head, I was like GoblynTeeth. It just
Mm.
rolled with it forever.
Oh, it works anyway. As good as
Yeah,
anything, I suppose, right?
it worked.
Uh, so yeah, you've like I said, have entered in a bunch of contests in the past, but kind of before we get to that, I mean, I guess can you talk a little bit about just kind of how you just got into modeling in general?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. When I was growing up, I just was obsessed with toys and being able to put things together. So Legos were kind of the natural thing.
Mm.
And my dad would talk about like model kits from the 70s because we'd watch Godzilla movies and I didn't know what they were. And also they weren't really available. So I just thought it would be cool to be able to build things that were a little more complicated than Legos. And like pretty much every kid in America, Toonami happened. So I was seeing like Gundam Wing and G Gundam, and I always liked like Power Rangers with mechs and everything. So when Gundam happened, eventually in my little town, I think Kmart got Gundam models, and I was able to get like the really, you probably remember them, like the really simple like Master Gundam and like God Gundam and stuff. And they had like a level system. They didn't use high grade and master. It would say like level 1 difficulty to 4. And yeah, I just built those for a very brief time because they did not last long where I live.
Mm.
And it was probably like a good, I don't know, I was around 10. So probably like 10 years before I was able to get my hands on another model. I just happened to be at a convention and found them and bought one and was really impressed by how the engineering's come along. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
13 years in the game now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's yeah, of course. I mean, like I feel like that's like so many of us a very
Yeah.
common story. I feel like
Yep.
it was a combination of for a lot of people at the time, there was models in the store for a short period of time, and then it was a combination of the models weren't available anymore because the Bandai stopped selling stuff to the box stores here, like big box stores,
Right.
and um, for a lot of us who are kind of in that generation, I don't know exactly how old you are, but assuming based
Sure.
on your story, we're similar in age.
Yeah. Yeah.
That we were getting into high school and or college around that time, and then just kind of you get into other things. So for me, it was kind of a combination of the two, and it sounds like kind of similar
Yep.
situations. So, but yeah, then it's been definitely great. The past I don't know decade or so, I guess that it's been getting
Yeah.
to be more available again. Obviously, now it's like
Right.
yeah, anywhere very easily. But yeah, it was a different time back then when you had very few
Yes, it was.
choices.
Had to wait
Yeah,
for a
and
town and pay way too much for it. Like they
mhm.
had, and that was it.
Yep, yeah, and that was also in like the early, well, kind of pretty early days of eBay too. So like you could get
Yep.
stuff on there, and I remember shopping around like on eBay at the time too, but that was like, yeah, in the early days when it was still like felt kind of sketchy to buy stuff
Yep.
on there.
Yeah, I didn't know what I
So,
was gonna made it, so
mhm.
got pretty lucky with a few of them.
Yeah, that, and you kind of just didn't really know what existed. Like there weren't people making like YouTube videos about
Yeah,
the latest Gundam
exactly.
kit.
About this whole scene, I just bought models
Uh,
and I was like, put it together, and it's like, what now? And
mm,
I looked at the box art and it said like these are painted, so I just started Googling,
yeah,
and I eventually found. I think it was. Do you remember Vegeta 8259?
sure, yeah,
Yep, I found his videos back in probably like 2011 or something, and I saw
yeah.
this guy like spray cans to paint Gundams, and I was like, well, I can buy spray cans. So did a
Mm.
lot of my first kits with Krylon and
Oh,
Valspar. Yeah, yep, the old dirty way.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's what I was gonna ask. Like going like way back, do you remember which one was exactly your first kit ever? Was the Master Gundam, or was it a different
My
one?
it was probably either Shining Gundam or Master Gundam. I think it was Master,
Mm.
but I know my first high grade, like it was still in that level 1 through 4 system or whatever, was the actually the HG GPO1 FB, the full burn-in.
Mm, mm, mm,
I want to
mhm,
get a hold of one of those so bad and just
mm,
like do it right, because I know when I was
mm.
a kid, I did it with nail clippers. I did not have
Sure.
tools to make them. Like, yeah,
Mm,
so I think I'd like to get a hold of that guy.
mm. Yeah, that kit. I had that kit at that time as well.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a nice one. It was cool. Because you had like the core fighter included,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was nice. Very detailed.
Mhm.
I feel like that kit, you know, proportionally holds up pretty well. It's
I really like the look of it. I
mm,
like simplicity in old kits because you don't have
mm,
to feel weird about chopping them in half. There's not a bunch of internal
mm,
structure to mess with.
mm,
It's just, two halves with some polycaps, and if you want to cut it in half, you cut it in half. It's easy to
mm.
fix. Then you can
Very
change this report.
simple.
Yep.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, and then so I guess in like you said, you've been getting back into it obviously in the more recent years. Do you have? We'll take a look through like some of your contest entries, which have been pretty varied.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much of that is just you wanted to enter the contest and the contest themes happen to be varied, or if you just have varied interests. I guess in more recent years, I guess, do you have a particular genre of models, whether it be like just primarily Gunpla and on the occasion you do other things, or do you have a favorite now these days?
I'm pretty interested in any mech model. Lately, I feel like I'm
Mm,
buying pretty equal parts Bandai, but I'm adding in a lot more from other
mm,
producers. Like actually, somewhere in the background there's like a Big
mm.
O kit sitting on the floor.
Oh yeah,
Love
yeah.
the Big O. Never built a Motoroid, so that would be my Motoroid. And actually, these just came from Japan. So I've got some machining creators. Never built one of these. Love the design
Mm,
work.
mm,
But lately, I think I'm just trying to find anything that does not look normal. Like it
mm,
doesn't look like a Gundam. So I
mm,
feel like I should lean into strange designs a lot. I like main Gundams and stuff. I love the strike and those kind of designs. But anything that's a little strange, I'm
mm.
more, or I guess esoteric maybe would be a better word.
Well, I guess I mean I don't want to. I can understand how, I don't want to speak for you, but I can understand how if, for anybody who just builds a lot of Gundam, eventually you are going to get maybe not necessarily bored of it, but you want like a little variety sometimes. And so, I've
Yeah,
definitely been
I
through
like
the
that.
same thing, of course.
Bandai engineering is amazing. I love it.
Mm,
It's so good. But I like working with old kits because there's a little more work involved, and I feel like other companies they'll leave a seam line there that Bandai would definitely be able to engineer out. But I like having those sometimes because it makes practice core skills. Like you really need to practice your seam line removal and masking and being creative with solving problems that arise when you're doing a model.
mm.
So I think that's why I'm
Yeah,
kind of venturing.
I agree. Yeah, I think other model companies maybe not necessarily like lean into the fact that they're like making a model kit and they want it to still feel like a model kit, whereas Bandai, uh, like you said, they're the best at what they do.
Yeah,
They kind of try to make their model kits, as user friendly as possible, where kind of
yeah,
ends up being kind of like you're making your own toy essentially,
yeah.
which what they're made to do.
Exactly.
But yeah, definitely, if you just really enjoy like some of the like modeling processes, so Bandai's kind of getting rid of some of that in some of the more recent models for sure.
Yeah, I don't. I want. I mean, I don't want to say like I want every kit to be like a big challenge or like kind of hard to build, but I like having them in between, like easy build, difficult build, kind of go through them. So
yeah, absolutely. So there's first of all, you'll really enjoy. I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with that machining Krieger kit, because
I'm excited
based
for.
on like some of the like in terms of just like your contest entries, like the trajectory that I've seen in terms of like the last couple and kind of like the look that you've got with them, just kind of the style and the painting and everything. I think it'll work really well to kind of apply where you've been going in the last few builds that I've seen anyway onto that. I think it'll work pretty well.
Yeah, they're definitely a bit of inspiration. I like looking through like people's Mac K builds and stuff because it just looks good, and I like cloth and organic shapes a lot. So a lot of that and armor modeling. Actually, I've never built a tank, but I think they look cool. So I've been looking.
Yeah, same. And the O kit too. And if you like that, I'll just recommend to you too that try the ArtPla kit.
Yes, I really like the Pat Labor ones they've been coming out with from the movie, the ones with the reactive armor and everything.
Yeah.
Love those.
Yeah, those look super cool. All right. Anyway, let's talk about some of your contrasts. Well, I guess well, we could do this either before or after. We might as well talk a little bit more about the PokePla contest just for a minute. So the PokePla contest, you guys may know, is going on. You still, if you're just now hearing about it for the first time, you still have plenty of time until the end of January for that. And so I guess what are your thoughts on what you're expecting to see from the contest?
I like how open-ended it is because that's going to let people to get really creative with the designs. I'm hoping to see some things that I would have never come up with, and I'm hoping we see a diverse array. Like I want to see some kit bashing and just I don't know. I hope people get really into it with their designs, and I hope they don't shy away from doing something unexpected.
Sure. Yeah. I agree. That's why I wanted to keep it very open, so that hopefully we will. I'm imagining that it's going to be very similar to the Plog contest we had a few years ago, where it was like that. Where it's based around just these small, simple kits, but people got really creative with it.
Yeah. And there's a lot of really models now, so they've got a lot of options with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or the fixed pose ones and the ones with a little bit of movement. So they've got a lot of options.
Have you built any before?
Yes, I think I built the 1-to-1 Magikarp. I did it as a gift for my brother-in-law. I made him his own shiny variant, and I did like a few of the small fixed pose, like an Eevee, a Pikachu, and a Mew. But that's about it. They're fun. Like they're not a bad build. I like doing them. Yeah. I like Pokemon.
Yeah, for sure. I guess, and I wanted to ask you too, if you weren't judging, I don't know if you would have entered, maybe you would have passed on this one, I don't know, but if you were not judging and if you were going to be entering, do you have any idea what you might have done as an entry for this contest?
I've got a Garchomp model, and I think I would have tried to turn the Garchomp into either like a more mechanized design, like add a lot of like frame and like exposed machinery and wires and stuff, or honestly probably that. I was gonna say maybe like a power suit with it, like over top of a Gundam, but I probably would have just made it look like a robot with like some cloth or something, like I always do.
Well, I mean, who knows? I mean, that's just I'm sure if you were if you knew that you weren't going to be a judge and that you were going to be entering, and you put some more thought into it, maybe you might come up with something else as well. But I've
considered doing a build during the process, but I don't. I'm kind of busy this time of year at work, so this will be me.
Yes, absolutely. I the same. Where did I even put that? Oh yeah. So I have my Squirtle kit that I
Yeah.
originally thought like to, because when I can, I like to also do a build along with the contest too, as much as I can. I'm still working on finishing my old to gold Zaku here as well, actually.
I go with that
Uh,
one.
but yeah, I originally thought about doing something a little bit more elaborate with my Squirtle, and I thought I don't have a whole lot of time. I'm gonna keep it simple
Yeah,
with that.
I get you.
So, but yeah, it's fun, even though I'm always like the one. I mean, other people do contests too, but at least for my own contests, I'm the one that's like, organizing everything. But it is fun to just kind of think about if I was going to be entering, what
Right.
would I
Yeah.
be?
Yep.
Mm,
Every time you make a contest announcement or like when you tease them,
uh,
wife crazy. I start thinking about what it could be based on
mm.
like the context clues in the post, and I'm like, I think I know what that might be. I've been right a
Mm.
few times. Like I
Yeah,
was pretty proud of my gold one.
I
I don't.
feel.
That wasn't. That seemed like it's showing a little treasure chest. Gave it away.
Mm. I feel like there's, the past few I've done that, dropped that kind of like teaser image, and I've sometimes I guess it's more obvious than others, but yeah, usually somebody's able to guess it, at least one person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but then I also I'll talk about different contest ideas a lot, like during live streams and stuff. I'll say like, yeah, I've got a couple of ideas, this. So if people have been paying attention, and then when they see like the hint, they'd be like, oh yeah, that's that thing you mentioned.
Yeah.
Um, but all right, let's take a look here. So this one, I wanted to ask you this. You just mentioned it just kind of before we came on the live stream, because I didn't remember what was your first ever entry into any contest, but you
Yeah.
mentioned it, so it's gonna be this one here. Let me put it up on the screen for everybody. Uh, it's this one here.
Yep.
So this was the first time that you entered into a contest was this guy.
Yep. It was
Yeah.
the build. The what was the name of that contest? I'm trying to remember.
Uh, I don't remember exactly what the name was, but the theme was to make a custom using one of the battle log kits.
Yeah, and it was kind of an out
Mm,
of the box build. You couldn't add a bunch to it. You had to use what you had there. And that was really fun. Like just using sprue
mm,
plastic to kind of like create better points and stuff. And no,
mm,
it was a practice in recycling what was in the box.
mm. So this one, and just for context, this photo here, you were telling me before that this was one of your original photos,
Yep.
and this is
Yep.
a new photo that you just took. What is yesterday? You said.
Yeah, I took it last night,
Mm.
kind of late.
So just to kind of show people too the difference about photography, and I will say too, as we'll take a look through some of your other photographs, one thing that's been consistent with all of your contest entries from this one is that the photography has been good, which is one thing that I talk about all the time. For these contests, the presentation is really important. It's not equally as important as the kit, but it is very important because that's how we have to judge it based on how we can see it, because we can't see it as judges, we can't see
Right.
it in person, right?
Yeah.
So can you talk about a little bit about kind of what's been your approach to like how you want to present the kits, the photography and the lighting, kind of your approach on that?
Yeah. So since that was my first kit, I was learning a lot. And I think that was I changed the pose a lot. And nowadays I don't change the pose. Whatever pose is in the photo, I don't change it. But back then I was for that entry, I know I changed the pose quite a bit because I thought that would be a better way to get all the angles. And I it just didn't work out that well. So it's actually lived in that specific pose for many years now, as you can see from the new photo. I didn't repose it, I just grabbed it out of my cabinet, snapped the pictures. So with that one, I think the hardest thing was that cool giant Max. That was really fun to paint. I really wanted to show that off, but it takes up a lot of visual space. So I don't know that I need to learn how to do a little bit more. I'm not sure how to photograph nice giant weapons. I'm actually very new to photography. Like I've been learning because of these contests. So typically my approach is just to be as color accurate as possible to what I've painted. And I try to keep my editing pretty minimal. Like, I don't know, I wanted to get a good raw image, correct the lighting, and just show exactly what I've done as if you were going to see it in person. So I take a pretty simplistic approach.
Well, but I mean, that just goes to show that sometimes that works out for the best because, you know, especially it's another thing that I've talked about a lot in these contests, that don't try to, you know, make some like super stylistic imagery that you're going to be presenting. That's great for, you know, sharing on your social media. But if it's for a contest, you know, the judges need to see it as if it was just sat on a table and we can just like look around it, right?
Yep. If you've got a really good mind, put it in that really good pose and just show us the angles of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And then to David in the chat, David asked, "This was your first kit?" No, this was his first entry.
I'd painted a lot before this. This is just the first time I was brave enough to put myself out there with it.
Mm-mm. So, had you entered any other contests?
Nope.
Before
there's
this?
nothing near me, and I had no clue about online contests. I just watched your videos a lot for like the greater part of a decade. And I happened to catch the tail end of you mentioning one, and I happened to have the live lance, like it had just come in the mail or something, and I was like, well, I can actually enter this one if I want. And I had a really good time. I agonized over it a lot. I'm really nervous about, you know, doing things. I think anyone that does art, you know how it feels. You are your worst critic, and you just assume you need to improve every single time. And it's nice to get that validation once in a while where other people can look at your work and just give you a little bit of feedback. So this is really good for me. I love getting the feedback, and I love seeing other people's work, and it makes me get more involved with things, since I do live in an area where that's just not even an option. I don't person that builds Gundams around here.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great if we had, I should necessarily say we, it's mostly me, but I mean, and whoever the judges are involved in every contest, if we had, you know, the time and ability to just go through and like give detailed feedback on every single entry.
Yeah.
We tried that with the, what was it? The clean versus dirty contest. We did a lot of feedback on that one, and everybody was just kind of worn out. I feel like,
right. I could imagine.
It takes a lot of time. I mean, it's great for everybody involved, and like we enjoyed doing it, but especially if it's a lot of entries, I mean, it just takes a lot of time.
Right. And you know, it's nice to get feedback from just fellow builders in the community. Like, you know, if you see a build you like, tell somebody, hey, I really like that build. It looks nice, or tell them what you like about it specifically. It's a good way to, you know, drum up a little conversation, maybe get some ideas rolling around with each other.
Sure. Yeah. So before we move on to other contest entries, there's a couple of things in here I think that I've not ever seen before. I don't think.
No, that's. I was quite fond of that petite guy, and I did it years ago as a texture practice. Like if you want to zoom in on that, there's a cast iron texture. I did like the thinned out Tamiya putty, you know, effect. And I wanted to practice doing like some you know, like the tipping fluids and different things. So it was basically a test for just weathering and making a little diorama. And I'll never make anything cooler than that if you ask her. She's really fond of it. Include this piece, and it was a good sculpting practice too. He's got a little on the other side a pack that I sculpted out of some epoxy, and that's kind of where cloth sculpting started, really.
Nice.
And yeah, some of the parts in it were just junk that I had lying around. That little collection of wires, I think that came out of a hairdryer. I can't remember. Some of it did. Yeah, it was just a cheap, quick build, and I like it a lot. It was fun doing that textured base and just doing something possible and seeing what I can do with it.
Yeah. This great example for people too. I mean, even if, you know, these particular techniques is not something that people watching may want to try, but I mean, just a good reminder for people too. Like if you want to, you know, learn new techniques and things, a lot of times you'll hear from people that say, oh, I want to learn how to do this, but I'm worried about messing up my kit. So just get like a $5 kit like this.
Yeah.
Or I mean, you can even
just,
anything that's plastic really, but
right.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember who we saw recently. They shared a video. It was like a short on Instagram or something, and it was they were taking a piece of plot plate and just doing scribing practice and doing skiing and painting techniques on it as if you were doing it on a kit. They even did water slides, and I was like, that's ingenious. I wish I would have ever thought of that. But yeah, just, I mean, a piece of plastic, you can go really simple and test everything. But cheap kits are good to do things with that you're too afraid to use your expensive ones for.
Yeah, that's cool. I like it a lot. And this one too, I like, because I'm a big Converge fan.
Yep, I threw it in because I knew you were.
Yeah, okay, good. So what's the story with this one?
I found a Converge figure out in a store when I was shopping one day, and I just wanted to see what they were like. And I found out when I was messing around with it, I was like, oh, it'd be really cool to paint it. And I was able to fully disassemble it, which kind of surprised me. Like, they're just held together with a little super glue. So I took the whole thing apart, and I was like, well, that was fun. I should paint this. So I just wanted to paint it with the same amount of detail as I would for a full kit. Yet again, it's just more painting practice on something that's relatively inconsequential. Like for a contest, it's just, I think I did that wing contest actually. It was just like a little 2-day, 3-day paint job and more basing practice. I watched miniature bases a lot, so I just wanted to see if I could use the base from it to make a little terrain.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. I wish I could do, at the very least, detail up or repaint or something for all my Converge figures. Someday it'd be like a years-long project to just actually paint up like all my Converge figures. But no, they're a lot of fun, and I always recommend people to give it a try. I mean, at the very least, just do like some decals and panel lining or something on them.
Yeah, I mean, they're a different type of plastic, but they take paint. Brushing.
Did you use anything special to disassemble it? I mean, like you said, and I know that they're basically just held together with just glue, but I mean, I've heard of people using like different products for it. Did you at all?
I did not. I tried a few things. Like, I think I used like 90% isopropyl alcohol, like kind of tried to see if it would soak into the joints. I don't know if it made a huge difference. I really just, they're a softer plastic, but they recover from being crushed slightly. So I think I used like needle nose pliers or something that I wrapped in tape so I wouldn't destroy it and just pulled. Like, I was not delicate with that thing because I was like, if I break it, I'll fix it.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm apart, like in a dissatisfactory way.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much. I've never tried like disassembling one like that, but it came out looking really cool. I like it. Yeah. Glad to see that. And then I think this one's a contest entry. I have some more images of that, so we'll come back to that. I just want to see.
Yeah, these I just I wanted to rephotograph everything that I've taken a photo of recently while I have my booth set up, and just see how much better I can make them look if I had a good photo. A lot of these have okay photos, but really not that great. So yeah, and I haven't uploaded them anywhere, so this is the first look at them.
Ooh. You should definitely upload some of these, later on. But this one is another one that I've not seen before. Was this for anything in particular, or just something you just made on your own?
I was doing this around the time I entered my first contest. I actually shelved this one to do a contest, and I always was like, oh, well, I'll finish the contest and then work on this. And I kept kind of kicking it down the road, like I don't know, a couple of years almost. And one day I was like, I just have to finish this. But I used it for a lot of practice, like a lot of greebly practice, like little Star Wars greeblies, and cloth sculpting. I think this is when I really got into sculpting cloth details, like joint covers, and did some like magnet work on it, see if I could, attach things with magnets. So this was kind of a test kit. I like it a lot. There's, a lot of good things about it, but I eventually got to the point where I kept doing new techniques and improving, and then coming back to this, and eventually I was just like, this isn't as good as what I can do now. I just got to finish it and get it on a shelf. So it was a test kit in between contests.
Yes. I can also relate. That's something I've talked with Lincoln Wright a number of times about too. The concept of, sometimes it's better for it to be done than it to be perfect, because otherwise you just let it sit there and it's just nothing, right? If it's just sitting there not doing anything. And I have got plenty of those, but they're
have a long life in traditional artwork, and I'm better at finishing Gundams than watercolor paintings. So the deadlines with the contest are really good to help me get my speed up and quit, procrastinating. I've actually got a paint project sitting next to me in a box ready to be primed, and I'm out of excuses. I should probably start that soon, maybe today.
There you go. See, that's the impetus you needed to finish that. Yeah, that's like that's kind of like exactly what's been going on. What I mentioned with my my old to gold Zaku, because I keep thinking like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, and now I'm just thinking like, now I just want it to be done so that it can be done, and I'll live with not having done these 4 other things that I maybe wanted to do with that. So definitely.
You sit on it, the more you go back and want to change things that you were happy with, maybe 5 months ago.
Yeah, or you're gonna see stuff. I feel like another thing that can happen is you start seeing stuff that you're looking at like, I'm not really happy with how I did that at the time.
Yep.
And it's like, well, what are you gonna do about it? It's just like trash the whole thing, or I mean, fix it if it's something that you can fix, or just make do with it. And again, it's better to finish it at least.
Yep, that's definitely what happened with that Zaku. It was just I kept changing my mind about things every time I come back to it, and I started having like style clash, because when I first started, I was looking at a lot of Star Wars things. I really like those surface details, and you could probably see it on the shield. A lot of those added plot plate pieces are very much inspired by Star Wars, with the little square cutouts and stuff. And then I started getting into like these diesel punk designs with the hoses and connections, and doing cloth covers. And they work together enough, but I probably wouldn't combine the two now. I would pick one or the other. But there was so much time in between this that new ideas started coming in, and I wanted to see if I could sneak them in there.
Yeah, no, I think I totally get what you're saying. I think one thing that at least ties it together at least well enough, like to your point, you may not do it again on something now, but I think the painting really does a lot to kind of tie everything together. So I mean, the painting, you didn't mention it, but I think one of the things that I really like about this, and some of your other works as well too, we'll talk some more about, is just the painting style. So actually, on that note, it's a good point to ask you. Well, like you said, you have you do traditional artwork as well. Is there any other kind of like non-modeling art or skills, I guess, that you kind of bring into your modeling work?
Actually, I would say modeling work gets taken into new hobbies. I got into woodworking. I needed it to make the desk I'm sitting at right now. I couldn't find a satisfactory hobby desk, and I was like, well, I mean, like, it's just it's similar enough. I'm trying to square things up and make them look okay, so I bought and just maybe a little too picky about my measurements when I was making this table, because it is just a table, like a work desk. But cool. But no, the traditional art definitely helps out. Like, just kind of, I'm used to like a 2D surface from the way when I was growing up. So working in a 3-dimensional plane is actually really fun. I like it. I like being able to imagine how things would look all around. And I watch Lincoln Wright's videos a lot, and I like that he tells you with weathering, try to tell a story with it.
Sure.
So I try to keep that motto, and try to train my brain to make things too matchy. Like, don't try to go like tit for tat with your weathering. Like, oh, I did a little scarring on this arm, so I should do it on this arm for balance. Not to do that. So this modeling helps me with a lot of other artistic things and hobbies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess this is another, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but the Zaku 2 F2, also another one of my favorites. There.
No, I just really love the Zaku 2 F2, and that model is amazing. There's like, I have nothing bad to say about that model. It's so good.
Yep.
It's like one of the only Zakus I have with good forearms that don't have a big weird seam down the middle.
Yeah, that too. Even on the ones that Bandai tried to make it into, where like it's like a panel line. No, don't do that. It doesn't need that.
I want to get rid of it. It's driving me crazy.
The yeah, so that kit, if any of you guys have not ever built one, please get one and treat yourself.
Yes, it's totally worth it. It's one of the best Zaku's, in my opinion.
But so I guess you don't paint. You're not into like minis or anything like that, Warhammer or anything. No.
No, I have a few D&D minis. My wife and I tried to paint them together, but it was okay. I wasn't very good with it. Like I thought I would
Mhm.
jump in and immediately understand it because I'm like, oh, I paint Gundams. Very different,
Mhm.
like, totally different style, and that kind of told me I needed to work on my brush painting. So that's been a
Mhm.
practice for the last couple of years is doing more brush painting.
Gotcha.
And it helps me
Yeah.
out a lot. I'm lazy sometimes and I don't want to mask things. And if I can brush paint it, I'm gonna brush paint it.
Hey, yeah, I heard that. As much as I can avoid masking, I will too. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. But yeah, so I mean, just because I mean, like, I think this a lot of what I see in just like the painting and in particular like the weathering style, it seems like a lot of what I normally like. I'll a lot of times I'll see stuff like that, and like in this particular setting, like talking with people, and they'll say,
Mhm.
"Yeah, I got that." Uh, I got that style through Warhammer or whatever, but it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting that you have a kind of similar styles to what I see like from people who usually do a lot of like miniature painting, but you don't. So it's kind of the
I,
opposite.
I look at miniature painting. I see a lot of Warhammer on my Instagram, and I think
Mm,
it's really cool. And I like
mm,
that they can do so many little tiny subtle details, and it transfers through really well.
mm,
So I think
mm,
they work really well with the scale they're working on. So I try to do that as much as I can, like a 144 scale, keep the paint chips a little tighter, a little smaller, and
mm,
think about how that's look in the final product. Like a big gouge can look cool if that's what you're going for. But if you're trying to do
mm,
subtle weathering, consider the scale you're working with.
yeah,
And
mm,
Warhammer painters do it really well.
absolutely. All right. So I think I'm not sure chronologically. I think this was your next entry, or was it the
I
Mechamusume
think
one?
Mechamusume. I think,
This one?
yeah,
One
yeah, I
or the
think,
other?
yeah. I never built a Mechamusume kit, and
Mm-hmm.
that was probably the basis for why I really wanted to enter. I was like, well, these
Uh,
are cool,
mm,
and I had a lot of fun doing that one. That one was really cool.
mm.
And actually, I ended up hating the decals that I entered the contest with. They were like supposed to be lavender, and they just did not show up at all. So I stripped all the decals off of the paint and redid them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like
Yeah, I'm looking at
several
because
months after.
here, let me 'cause I have the other photos here from the contest still.
Oh,
I'll present them so that people can see these here. Bear with me a moment.
yeah, this will be another one where you get to see like
The before and
photography.
after.
Yeah,
So here, if you guys can see,
yeah. There's
especially like up here, you can see like that lavender, and then some of
yep,
these here.
yep. Those little lavender ones just did not pop the way I wanted them to.
You can see a little bit in here. Yeah, they're kind of a little hard to pick out
Yep,
against that gray, right? Mm,
yep. Real hard. Yeah,
mm.
I ended for my own purposes. I had to get rid of them and replace them with the same ones but in white, and I think it makes it much easier to look at now.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely they pop more like you're saying. And that's the thing. Like I have a bunch of those colored decals too,
Hmm.
but they're kind of very specific as to like when you can use them or not. Cause like
Yeah,
a lot of times like you have to use it on like just the right colors or they're just not gonna show. And then it's like, oh, what's the point of that, right?
yep. It's almost
Yeah.
like it needed to be a darker color for them to show up, or even lighter. I don't know. I'm
Mm,
not sure. I've seen somebody else use like mint green ones, and they kind of had the same issue where it blended in really bad.
yeah.
So I just kind of strayed away from them, and nowadays I just use a lot of the mecha decals, the
Hmm.
ones that
Hmm.
those things are great.
Yes. I'm just gonna put this one back up here now. Yeah, they are. And so you enjoyed this one a lot. Have you built any other Mech Musume kits since then, or just that's the only one?
That's the only one, but I think in one of the contests, one of the prizes that I got was I think it was a Frame Arms Girl. Which one is it? It's on a shelf over there somewhere. It's okay. It's one of the ones that has like a bunch of clear effect parts and is based on that. It starts with an H, HR.
Ah,
What is it?
the
You know what I'm
Herspelger.
talking
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I have the dark color variant, and I thought about one, and I've got a bunch of leftover parts from doing this project. Like I've got some torsos and heads, so I could always make another one out of it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. No,
I just really want a
they're
bot.
fun, and like you were saying earlier too, it's just something different, right?
Yes, yep, that was a huge part. I wish I would have gone in and done more with the face, because I pretty much kept it how it was. I thought the face stamping looked good enough. I
Yeah.
bought some decals for the eyes in case I wanted to change them, but yeah, at the end I was like, they look fine. I don't know if I'm going to be able to improve that very much, but I'm happy with everything else. I like giving her the robotic elf ears kind of sticking out. I had to cut her hair, make that look a little different. Oh, there's
no,
there's a crossover. I do hair for a living, and I did have to make one have less ugly hair. I didn't like her hair very well, so yeah, she got a little trim.
I like the well, a couple of things. I really like the inclusion of the little bags in there too, kind of similar like what you had on like the Zaku in the previous one, and a couple of builds you've talked about that, how you like sculpting stuff like that from Epoxy
Yeah.
Putty, right?
Yep. Yep, I did them on the Zaku first, and then I decided to transfer what I had learned from that project to this one and give her own little hip packs.
That's a really nice little detail there. And then David in the chat was also mentioning about how vibrant the wings are. So yeah, how did you paint the pink in particular?
That pink was a lot of trial and error, and I didn't want to waste my paint, so I just kept dumping more in. I wrote down the formula in one of my little notebooks, but it was mostly fluorescent pink, a little bit of like a clear, probably like a primary magenta, like the ones you use for mixing colors. I did not know that's for, so I was adding it like crazy, and I was like, why isn't this really changing much? And then a little bit of white. But yeah, it's basically just a bunch of Mr. Color fluorescent pink and white shades and stuff. I'll end up posting this on Instagram, and I'll actually share that color formula in the description or something, because I love it. It came out really well. I'm happy with it.
Yeah. And it's such like it's such a stark contrast to like the gray and black color scheme of the rest of it, but it works really well. I feel like.
Yeah, everything's so cool and kind of cyberpunk, and I like cyberpunk things where they do that bright neon against it. So I wanted to come up with something that was even brighter than a fluorescent pink.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, David, I would tell you that if you want some really bright fluorescent vibrant colors like that, yeah, the secret is fluorescent paints. And what you can do that
probably like white as the undercoat.
Yes. Yeah, you want either white or pink surfacer, and then yeah, you can I've done this a number of times, and Nick, I'm sure maybe has tried this as well too, or you just add a little bit of fluorescent into just like your regular paints, and to make any other color, you can make it more bright, more vibrant by just adding a little fluorescent into it.
Yeah, I saw that in I think it was when they were talking about and it was a really old article. It was showing an RX-78-2 head being painted, and they said they had a drop of fluorescent pink to the it was like for the max painting style, where you like highlight from the middle outward and get fluorescent pink. So I've experimented with that a few times.
Yeah. If you want like really vibrant colors, it's the best way to go. So yeah, I mean, I like this build a lot. One thing that I noticed that I know that let's see, for the first couple of builds until I think we get to the not Zaku, Zaku Warrior kit. No, what is it?
That's
Zaku
a
Warrior, right? Jin, yeah. Base kit. That for these first couple, and I think including your AOZ kit here too, you hadn't experimented too much with like how the kits were based.
Yeah.
So
yeah, pretty much
if we can
pieces or whatever I had.
yeah. What we'll come back to this one, but just to go to this one, which I think is maybe the first one, which you had like a kind of a custom base for as well. What made you want to try that? I mean, obviously just a prettier way to display the kits, but for anybody who who's going to be entering the contest or not. I mean, I obviously I see a lot of entries where people are just using like the action bases or whatever. But what was kind of the main thing that made you want to get away from that?
Looking at my old photos, the action base, they work really well and they work great to display things, you know, just in general. But for like a contest where I'm taking a photo and trying to show off the most I can of a build, an action base is bulky and it takes up a lot of room. So I just wanted to get it as simple as I could and kind of pare it down to just a base with a brass rod. That way you're not really staring at anything but the kit. So I really wanted to remove the apparatus that's holding it upright so that I can focus on what I'm actually trying to show you.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I agree.
A nice little, you know, like base with some scribing in it and a little bit of a grind.
Yeah, this one's nice. For the AOZ kit here, I mean, like if you're going to be shooting your kit with a black background and you use it as a black action base, it can be a good way to just hide the base. I mean, like it's not to say that you know, using an action base is a bad idea. It can work perfectly fine. And then for something like this, but I get what you're saying, like it can be a bit visually distracting away from the kit having this big thing here. Either, you know, like you said, had you based this on just a rod and, you know, not had anything like that behind it, we could get like the silhouette of that shape a lot easier without having that in the background, right?
Even in this new photo, it's just, it catches my eye in a way that I don't enjoy. I don't love that action base. I would like to, I mean, it's the whole thing is just kind of like a little custom connection in the back with a brass rod shoved up through the bottom of the backpack. So it really wouldn't be much to just have a brass rod going into it and have it go down to a simple base with just like some, I don't know, space debris or even just a nice color block of some sort more removed from it. So I'll probably do that. But actually, they work great. They just, they can pull your eye a little harder than you want.
Yeah. And so in particular, I mean, like if it's something for anybody who's building something and they're just going to put it up on their shelf, I mean, it doesn't matter at all, whatever you want to use for that. I'm just talking in terms of if it's for like a contest entry. Again, just something to keep in mind about.
Yeah, think about that. I didn't for the first several. I wish I would have.
I don't think it would. I don't think it necessarily was too harmful to your overall score necessarily, but just something I thought I'd point out because I do see it a lot. But you know, you're not only yourself, but a lot of people I see kind of getting away, in particular for a contest, getting away from using action bases, which is good. But I mean, like they obviously have their place. Another thing to just mention, in case anyone's you know, hearing this conversation thinking like, where the heck can I get these brass rods they're talking about? Actually, another thing that you can use, and I've used a number of times and I quite enjoy, is actually just a coat hanger. You can just get like one of those like rod, like metal coat hangers. So you can either remove the plastic coating, or the plastic coating is kind of nice because then you can just paint on top of that. So you can just paint it black or whatever. So if you don't know where you can get, you know, little brass rods, you can get them online a lot of different places. But if you've got some old coat hangers in your closet, you can just cut those and use that too. Easy enough. And usually they're exactly like 3 millimeters. They'll fit exactly into your
coat hangers. They are a bit more mathematically accurate than some of the brass rods I bought. I've had a lot that were 2 meter, but you know, they're a little all over the place.
That and I found that, you know, as great as Bandai's kits are, some of their whole measurements sometimes not exactly right too. So, which is odd. All right. Anyway, so we'll come back to the gin. I just want to talk about the bases for a minute, just kind of going still in chronological order here. I think we had your AOZ build here, where if anybody doesn't remember, the point of the contest was to what was it, to use a non-AOZ kit, right, and make it look like it's something from Advanced Zeta. Correct? Right?
Yep, that was the whole prompt. I loved that prompt. That was so fun. I just basically sat around staring at Advanced Zeta kits and just from it and tried to figure out what were thematic things that you would see in Advance of Zeta, down to like little tiny details. So it was really fun to do. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, and so what was, in case anyone can't pick it out, what was the base kit? What were some of the other parts and things that you used for this one?
So it was the HG Thrones Eins kit. I had it sitting around for years. I'd never really done a thing with it. I just thought it looked kind of cool. And the more I looked at it, I was like that head shape in particular made me think of Advance of Zeta for some reason. I don't know what it was. I think it was just the big blade on top of it, maybe. Yeah, something like that. Just something about it looked like an Advance of Zeta kit to me, or it had the potential to be one.
Yeah. I can see. I think it's mostly that kit, but you definitely use some other stuff around, like for like the long like fuel tank, like verniers. Those are Kotobu kit parts. I know. Some of the other stuff on there.
The arms have the. I think those were from like it was like an old Build Fighters add-on kit. I think it was for like that Mark II that was in Build Fighters, like in the beginning.
Yeah. Right.
I had those around, so I ended up having to sand the arms down and make them more flat and square, and attach those big old cannons to the back of the arms. I think they're just held on there with magnets too. I can't remember, but those are some real strong magnets.
Yeah. No, there was, I can't remember exactly, but there was a few entries that either used like one of the Throne kits, or I think it was like the Arc Gundam was one we had one or two of. So there's a number of 00 designs that were kind of very similar aesthetically to something from Advance of Zeta. Oh, I can see there's some actually on like the side of the legs. Those are base lard option parts.
Actually, that's the shields on its back, the little ones over its head. Those are from the Vasselard like upgrade kit. So yeah, a lot of that's from that.
Oh yeah, up here too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of a salvage because I got those parts in a box that was completely crushed. So 90% of that box was unusable, and I just had a bag full of like half broken pieces. So I had to put some of them back together to even get them onto this kit.
Yeah.
And then made a lot of those little heat sinks, those yellow heat sinks. I made a lot of those. that was labor intensive.
Here. Yep. Is that using bread clips or just plot plate?
I used plot plate for that. Yeah, that was all plot plate. And I think I did, I had a workaround. I used one of those wave detail punches. Used the detail punches and just had to, kind of piece them together as best as I could. Because I've done it by hand a handful of times, and it looks good that way. But man, if I can find a workaround, I will. And the wave workaround is great.
Yeah, definitely. Why make it more difficult on yourself?
Yep.
For sure. Is that the green part that's just masked and painted with like a metallic green or something for that?
Yep. I think it was actually I masked and painted it with this color. I've got a huge wall of paint in front of me. If I can get a hold of it. It was this here, Mr. Metallic Green. The GX green. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Anytime I want something highly reflective, I feel like those do a good job at it. And sometimes I'll even over top of it with like a clear blue or a clear green for like just kind of like a turquoise effect. For that one, it was just the paint over top of gloss black.
And the other thing that I found interesting about this one compared to, I mean, it's not like you we're always doing like clean builds like this and then later went to more weather stuff. I mean, even if we just go to like these other ones here with the Zaku and with this Musume kit and stuff, but this one's very clean. There's not any weathering on it. Obviously, that's just kind of, I think, probably just due to the Advanced Zeta theme.
The Zeta stuff, looking at it, said most of them were like prototypes and test types. So I wanted to kind of stay true to like a prototype or test type would probably roll out real clean.
Sure.
So I tried that with the aesthetic.
Was it difficult, enjoyable, or you didn't enjoy it, or how did you feel about doing something without any weathering on it?
I like doing weathering because it's fun, but I had so many different things that I had to figure out on this kit that if I could save myself time anywhere, weathering was the place I chose to save time. So partial aesthetic purposes, and then also thinking of deadlines. Like I didn't have a lot of time to do really nice weathering, and having a clean build's nice to have. Shows off the paint better, and I don't know. I like how that one came out. It was fun messing with a color scheme like that.
Yeah. How? I guess like how much research or practice did you do to try to like match some of the colors exactly? Because you can't like buy a Advanced Zeta paint set necessarily.
Exactly. I tried to buy a couple of things and I just wasn't happy with it. Like I think I bought, again, I've got this giant paint wall in front of me. I bought a couple of Titans blues because I was like, well, it's a Titans color, but it just did not look right. So I ended up using a custom mix of like a dark gray with a couple of drops of black for my dark colors. And for the white, I think that was actually, that's not a white. I think it was neutral gray Gaia notes too.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And that RLM 65 green, that kind of like pale bluish tone you see on the right one and a couple of spots on the kit. That was, I just threw that in at the end because I needed an extra color in there. I felt like just for balance and something to pop. But yeah, I just mostly stuck with known Advanced Zeta colors and the visual look, but to just make it all up, like I couldn't find anything that matched very well. The Gundam yellow paint, I don't like that yellow. It just doesn't look right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's like with fluorescent pink added to it over top of a pink primer.
Yeah. Take that really nice bright yellow. Yep. Yes, I'm the same. Character yellow is my go-to for any time when I need yellow. Yeah, it's a good one. This one, maybe you don't want it, maybe not quite necessarily that orange, but still like, using just like the regular Gundam yellow or just a regular normal yellow.
Yep.
Just never looks good, I feel like.
Right. Yeah. I think this one I did use the Gundam yellow for just little crosses in a few places. Because I mean, you've seen Thunderbolt kits, they have kind of a mustard yellow. It's like kind of I didn't love that dingy yellow, so that was my compromise. It's not as vibrant as the Advanced Zeta yellow, but it's not mustard. It's just a little more dull.
There's very little of it too. I mean, you only have this little bit here, and there's a little bit on the backpack. So
yeah. So
there's a couple. There's maybe some up in there too. Is that right?
Yeah, looks a little bit of in here and there for some vents. I can't remember where all the yellow is on that one. There's not a ton of it.
No.
That was
this one. Yeah. This one you can talk a bit about. This one was for just to remind everybody, the contest theme for this one was UC versus AU. So obviously, in this case, taking an alternate universe kit and making it look like it's out of Gundam Thunderbolt, of course.
I love Thunderbolt. I think Thunderbolt's probably design-wise one of my favorite Gundam things. I love how blocky and square the Earth Federation suits are, and I love cloth coverings. I think they look so cool. So this was really fun to try to make it look like it was from that universe. And I picked the Jin because I kind of thought it was ugly. So I wanted to and see if I could make myself like it. And I'm really happy with it. It's one of my favorite builds, I think.
Yeah, and you could return to some weathering on it here, and also the painting itself. Now, you mentioned before Max's kind of pre-shading style? Is this one? Did you do like pre-shading or post highlighting?
I based everything in black and actually just slowly built highlights up top of the black. I do the technique where you hit kind of the middle of the piece and then that's where your brightest highlight is, and then mist over the rest. So that's little. So for the most part, everything was based in a black or a really dark gray, depending on it.
Definitely find that way much easier than pre-shading for sure.
I'm not very good with pre-shading.
No.
I struggle.
But yeah, this one I liked a lot too. And this one I think was, I don't know, I think he didn't place in this one, but I know it was definitely one of the honorable mentions because it was like 4th. It was like right there. I don't remember what the winners we had. I think we had like 2 winners or 3 winners, something like that. But this was definitely one of the ones that was like right there. We talked about this one a lot in the judging process. So I liked it a lot too. The colors and like you're saying, too, like a lot of the stuff that makes kind of Thunderbolt what it is. I mean, like there's everything there. It looks like something that's right out of Gundam Thunderbolt for sure.
Yeah, it was kind of tricky because Thunderbolt colors vary from manga to anime. If you're looking specifically at the anime, their blue colors are more blue, but a lot of your blues are more of like a green shade. So that was kind of a pick, and I decided to go with the greenish route because I think that's more aesthetically pleasing to me. But this was really fun. This was a lot of kit bashing, a lot of weird parts in a box that I had to use to make it look the way I want.
Yeah, the Jin parts are from the master grade, right?
No, this is all high grade.
Oh, right. Yeah, because I was gonna say, I'm looking at it, like some parts look like they're from like very similar to the master grade, like the head in particular, but then like the backpack parts do look a bit different. Those are from which kit exactly? Do you remember?
So I used high mobility Jin for most of the base. The skirt was from the Zaku FZ from War in the Pocket. And then like arms and thighs, I think the arms were from they're from the Hazel, I think. I had to like cut those and make them fit on there because they're not compatible at all. The thighs were from a very, very old ARC 782 that was kind of broken. So I had to make those thighs work on it too. And I think some of the backpack from like 30-minute missions, like a block of it was the 30-minute missions. So it's got pieces from everywhere. I probably could have included a couple extras of the back of it, but I don't know.
I think I have the photos of it here. I thought I pulled these up. Let me see. Just a minute.
I think this was the last I used the iPhone to get pictures of for a contest. After that, I decided I really needed a camera and start practicing photography.
Here you go. I've got the rest. We can pull these up real quick. We can see the back a little bit more.
Yeah.
Bear with me a moment.
Yeah. Take your time.
Maybe here. There you go. So here.
Somewhere in there, there's a backpack. Yeah, in the original pose, I had the fuel tank sticking out, and I hated it. So I ended up flattening. You can really
rather
see
than just like sticking straight down.
Yep. Yeah, the color differences in the photography are super obvious now.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. I mean, I don't know. I've not seen it in person, so it's hard for me to say. But I can tell I mean, just from what I can tell in the photos, definitely looks like the colors are a lot more true in the new photo for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
You can see some more of the back of the design. So you've talked a lot about this cloth covering, and we've seen it a lot in a lot of your builds. For anybody who's wondering, what's your technique on making that?
I have changed it a few times. The best thing I have found, and if you want to hold on for 1 sec, I'll grab it.
Okay.
I keep my sculpting stuff in. So I used to use just like metal sculpting tools, but they create really weird lines. I use epoxy putty as the base, and I try to keep it kind of thin because you're trying to add some bulk, but not so much that you can't fit joints together. You got to be kind of mindful of that. I use these very cheap silicone sculpting tools now.
Oops. Hang on. Let me.
Yeah, these are what I use. And honestly, probably like these two the most. And they're just flexible silicone heads, and I just use those to kind of press the epoxy putty material down where I want to see a wrinkle. There's not really like a hard and fast rule for how I create the wrinkles either. Sometimes I'll actually take cloth and set it up kind of like an art study. So Yeah. So actually like rumple up some cloth and okay, that's how cloth looks when it hangs over this shape. Like, and it'll be something real simple, like a box with a t-shirt over it. And that's what little idea to get started.
Yeah, we'll see that in particular with your most recent entry here. We'll get to that in just a minute. I think that's probably maybe what you're referring to for that one.
Yeah.
Definitely makes me think of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, in case anybody's curious about those, so that you can find them, usually they're called like silicone brushes, I think, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Or if you just search for like any kind of silicone, just, molding tool or what would sculpting tool, you can certainly find stuff like that. And again, any kind of like nail supply store, beauty supply store will have those.
Yeah, and you don't have to get fancy with them. Like those are very, very cheap. They do the job. I mean, I'm just mash and putty around. It's a tactile experience.
Yeah. And the important thing too is that your the putty doesn't stick to them, right? Too when you're doing it.
Yep. With the metal stuff, it can be pretty tough.
All right. We're gonna take a look at two more. This one was for the Notchin contest here, obviously. Oh, why is the photo all squished like that? Let me see. Let me pull these up again here real quick. So for the Notchin contest, I guess so for, again, just to kind of recap the contest theme for people, it was either using the Notchin kits or the Marutoys kits. So what made you opt, first of all, just to use a Notchin kit rather than the Marutoys?
Love the design.
Okay.
I have cats. The fact that they're a mech with cat feet is an instant, thing I needed. But I really like that little boxy, blocky design. And the Kotobukiya kit is incredible. I love that thing.
Have you built any of the what is it, the PokePla kits?
No, I've never got to. I've looked at them a few times because they made they made Votoms as well, right?
That's what they've got. They're coming out with these days. They're putting out different Votoms ones. Yeah,
got a chance to try the Notchin PokePlas, but I'm glad I just got to get my hands on the Kotobukiya one.
Yeah. And I'd seen, actually, speaking of Votoms, I guess, so there's a Notchin Votoms version from Kotobukiya as well. And I think I'd seen that they're coming out with a new one of those too, which I think is just, I don't know if it's really going to be anything too different. It's just like the purple version.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if it's just going to be basically just a color swap or if it's going to come with any alternative weapons or anything like that. But just saw that just the other day. Apparently, yeah.
Yeah, like Votoms has some pretty cool designs. It'd be nice if one with like a little Gatling gun hand from the red Votoms.
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with Votoms. I just like the look of them. But the red one, the Brutish dog, I think.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Same.
Really
that one is really nice. So this one, yeah. So the that was all there really was for the theme for this one. This is another contest where it was pretty wide open, so you could kind of go anywhere that you wanted with using the kit. What was your kind of thought process for coming up with the concept for this one?
It changed pretty early on. I initially said I wanted to do a cyberpunk build with like a diorama that looked like a city street. And I very quickly realized I wasn't going to be able to pull all that off. I was like, that's going to be so much in so little time. So I decided, I was like, why don't I just lean into the cloth stuff that I've been doing? And I've been looking at a lot of tanks. So since I've been looking at tanks so much, I was like, I'm going to make it look like a walking tank and just have fun with the color scheme. And that'll satisfy the need to make like I guess I went diesel punk with it more than cyberpunk. Yeah. So a lot of that's just based on stuff I looked at on tanks, like the shields. They're very much inspired by tanks. Has the rivets, kind of that like boxy, blocky shape. So yeah, a lot of heavy armored vehicle inspiration for this.
So for these shields, did you build on top of the shields, or those are just scratch built?
I built on top of it. I basically just started laminating it with layers of PLA plate to get like the gesture of the shape, and then went over top of that. So there's like 3 layers to build it up and bend it out. So yeah, the real shield is under there.
Mm.
It's severely altered,
You
and
can
like
kind of
up
see the
inside,
shape up here. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm. Mm.
yeah, up inside of there, I actually kind of went through and cut those
Mm.
those little like inner frame pieces out, and then
Yeah.
cut out of them. There's like little bits of metal mesh details up inside of there.
Yeah.
They didn't really show up in the photos that well because they're, like they just don't show in general. I just wanted to do it fun. But there is like hosing detail inside of there and
Mm.
like actual mechanical stuff in the shields. Maybe you can see it in that one.
It's the kind of detail though that is not going to be necessarily too visible, and it's
Right.
but it's very satisfying, like personally, because it's
Yeah.
there and like you can see it when you look at it, and it's not the kind of
Yep.
thing that you know in any other kind of setting people
Yeah.
are probably not going to notice.
Yes.
But
I
no, it's
wanted to do
fun.
stuff with this kit. That was the
Mm.
goal. I wanted to try LEDs for the first time. I
Mhm.
wanted to be more
Yeah,
familiar with doing weld seams.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I was
just
gonna
a lot
ask
of
you
arm.
about that. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Weld seams are super fun. I love doing them. I learned how to do them from watching Night Shift's YouTube videos. He does a lot of
Mhm.
armor models. And I saw how he made these tools using like metal from a pop can. So I
Mhm.
actually still have that can, and I just cut little bits off of it every once in a while. It's just, I don't know, a can, and
Mhm.
shaped them onto a toothpick. So I just use a little toothpick to kind of plink along in those grooves. That's how I
Mm.
create welds with
Mm.
epoxy putty. I'm gonna do that on a machine kit soon.
Yeah, yeah. It's perfect for that, and the size and the scale of it looks really, really good too.
Thank you.
Uh, oh yeah, about the LED. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because obviously we don't see any wires or anything here, so I'm guessing you built the battery just into the inside of this here.
Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
It was a lot of trial and error. I've never messed with LEDs. I just
Mhm.
borrowed a breadboard from my brother-in-law. He told me you just plug stuff in and make it. And I had to dim the LEDs down because they were pretty harsh. Like they were
Oh,
very,
really?
very, very bright. Yeah.
Ah,
If I did it
easy.
over, I'd probably
Mhm.
like a magnetic switch, but it's a physical switch. So you would open the head and actually flip it on and then close the head. So it's a
Mm.
little bit of a pain, but it's not that bad. I flipped it on and off
Mm.
like 6 or 7 times.
Mm. Yeah, that's kind of my thinking with LEDs too. Is kind of usually why I just don't bother with it, just because I feel like how often am I going to be bothered to actually go and turn it on?
Yep.
Uh, but at least like for purposes like this, I mean, it's a cool way to show off the kit. Honestly,
Right.
I would love. It would be super interesting to see it with like really bright eyes if you were taking a picture of this kit like in the dark and you just had it kind of dimly lit with those super bright eyes, sort of like Jinro
Yeah.
style. Would look pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
When I was doing the LED testing, they were super, super bright and it did look really cool. But I was like, it's going to really distract from the photography. I didn't
Mm.
want to light bleed. I just wanted to see a little bit of that red kind of coming over the front of the chest.
Yeah. Mm.
Uh, it's still pretty bright, but like you can look at it and it doesn't kill your eyes. That
Mm.
was the goal.
Yeah.
It could be
No,
painful to.
it's like with I mean, not exactly to the same degree, but similar to like the detail up inside the shield, like you mentioned, it's just kind of a small detail. And like most of these photos, we don't see the eyes at all, right? It's
Yeah.
like a small detail that you can just catch, at certain points. Even
Yep.
like here, you can see the glow of the eyes, which is kind of cool. But
Yeah.
uh, it's
Be
just
something.
one of many details there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted it to be impactful when you do see it, but I didn't want those to be the main feature. I just wanted it to
Mm.
have four little bug like robot eyes and, see
Mm.
them here and there.
That and
That,
speaking of,
oh,
go ahead.
it was a really fun thing to do.
Mm. Speaking of bug like, I really love the antennas on it too.
Oh, thank you.
Where did that I mean I've seen that done. Where did you get that idea from? How did
I
you
was
make those?
sketches. I was just sketching and I knew I wanted to have,
Mm.
at first I was going to do maybe one antenna just kind of sticking vertically,
Mm.
but
Mm.
I kept looking at the silhouette of it when I built it, and it just seemed like a big curving line over the top would look kind of cool. And I decided to do that zigzag just because I thought it would look neat and kind of cartoonish to have like a little rumpled wire.
Mhm.
And yeah, he's got like like roach ears,
Yeah.
sort of.
Yeah, the antennas on the just a really it wouldn't it's not like something that would necessarily work on just anything, but for this kit, for this design, just because it's already kind of cartoonish already, just in terms
Yeah,
of like the design of the
yeah,
mecha,
yeah,
it worked really well. Yeah.
yeah. It has some bug-like qualities to it.
Mm-mm. So yeah, no, I like this a lot. And like you mentioned earlier too, that you wanted to experiment with the colors a bit. The colors are super nice. I love the combination of this kind of blue, so almost looks like a little bit of greenish to the blue. So just a really
Yeah,
nice looking color. And then the asymmetry of the red hand here as well is really
I
nice.
use that red a lot.
Mm.
Anytime I need a red, I kind of grab for that one. I think it's a Gundam color red. I think specifically
Mm.
UG11 MS Char's red. I love that one. It's
Okay.
got
Mm.
violet to it,
Mhm.
and it just it dulls down enough that it's not too much. And
Mm.
that greenish tone, I was trying to make a backpack color for my, that Zaku, the Zaku F2,
Mhm.
and I made way too much of it. And I ended up using that backpack color that's loosely based on the backpack from Azaku, and just
Uh-huh.
based out it.
Mhm. Oh yeah, definitely. I've had that too, where you mix up, you only need a little bit of some color, but you can't get it quite right, so you end up mixing up way too much of it, and then
Yeah,
you've got like an interesting color left over. You can just hang on to
right,
it because that leftover color that you've got, you might find a use for sure.
right. Yeah, I try to write down my color formulas as
Mm,
much as I can. I used to write
mm,
them on like scrap mail, like I would grab an envelope and write them on there all the
uh,
time. So now I actually have like little notebooks and eventually transfer it to a document.
mm. Yeah, uh, it's a good thing to do. I've
Yeah,
never gotten into the habit of doing it, but it's a
every
good
once
thing
in
to
a
do if
while,
you can. Yeah.
colors, and if somebody asks a question,
Mm,
I'll try as hard as I can to answer it.
mm,
Too much. So,
mm. Yeah. Uh, no, so I like that one a lot.
thank you.
And then that brings us to your most recent one here for the Old to Gold contest. Go
I
ahead and
love
put
that
that
contest. That was a great
here.
contest.
Yeah, it was. I was very satisfied with kind of just the quality of work that we saw, and then also just the variety of works. So,
Yes.
I mean, I think amongst our finalists, well, amongst the winners of the contest, we had four, and there was one was Gundam, one was Machining Krieger, one was yours here, which is
Zabang.
what's Zabungle, yeah, right. And what was the other one? No, I can't think of it. Something else too, but we had a lot of variety anyway.
Yeah.
It was cool, and it's gonna bother me enough I don't
I remember
remember what
having
that was.
the one that was in the top. It had were there like wheels on its back?
Yeah, yes, yeah, Moss Beta. Hmm.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's the
Yeah.
other one
Those are
that
really
we
cool.
had. Yeah, anyway, we and even and that's just among the winners. Even then, among like some of the other like finalists too, we had a lot of other stuff, Macross and every other
Yeah.
things. Uh, yeah. So this one thing that we'll just point out because it's like a really nice detail on here, and because we were just mentioning it a moment ago about the cloth on the top of it.
Yep.
It's such a cool detail.
Yep. This was the first time I actually got to use silicone sculpting tools. So a lot of silicone sculpting tools. That little cloth on top of its head is actually epoxy putty. It's just
Hmm.
Tamiya. It's
Hmm.
surprisingly flexible. I was able to take that on and off over and over and over again without breaking it. Shocked
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
But
Such
this,
a cool detail on the top of there. I
yeah,
like that
thank
a
you.
lot. Hmm. So what I guess when the contest was first announced, is this a kit that you already had and you're like, oh, it's a perfect chance to build this, or is this one that you sought out for the contest?
I already had it, and
Mm.
I never got around to building it because I
Uh,
think before UC versus AU contest there was a poll for like old to gold or UC versus AU.
uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I was one of the old to gold voters. I was really hoping for the old to gold
Yeah.
contest, and when it I was like, one day it will, because you seemed like you're really into it. So I just left it in a box. Like, one of these days, I'm going to build this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as I jumped into this one, I was really excited.
Mm-hmm. So what did you so like what are some of the things that you had to do for this? Did you have to do like any kind of proportion changes or any scratch building or kit bashing on any of the parts or anything like that?
I had to do a lot. Those legs, they had no ankle movement whatsoever, other than like they had 4 pegs that held the feet completely in place, and the leg was tight that it was like just kind of boxed in there. There was no way for it to move. So I had to make the lower leg probably about 4 millimeters wider, and then put a ball up inside of it. So there's a ball and socket that attaches into the foot. And in the original design, the feet are actually held together with a spring. Like, there's a spring that loops the 2 feet, and it kind of like makes them crimp together. And then when they are flat on the ground, it spreads. That was useless. It did nothing. So I had to scrap all and make some like internal connections, and ball joint that. And then I wanted to be able to paint everything separate, so I had to cut the pegs out of the knees. It was a really involved process. There's a brass rod going through the leg to hold it together. And again, I didn't want to mask. I was just trying to think of any way around masking it all. But the thing was a beast. The top of those thighs, they had no movement. So I hollowed the thighs out and made an entire inner frame that the top of the thigh joint stabs into, so I could rotate the hip.
It'd be it's right in here, that part, Yep.
And there's a ball joint that connects to the hip now, so that the hips could swivel in any direction. So yeah, from the waist down, that was like a total reconstruction with I wanted to use as little modern stuff as possible, because that was one of the prompts. So I think in total, like 4 ball and socket joints, and everything else is plot plate and brass rod. Yep. A lot of scratch building. Built a claw, built some new cannons for the arm, made the arm longer. And
the welding on there as well.
I even thought about doing more welding, but it just seemed that was a good natural spot for it, because otherwise it'd be like a smooth finish, like kind of a flush fit. And I just wanted it to look a little more industrial. So, I just decided to do the gnarly weld seams there, and then little bits on the chest, and I think maybe on the legs, like around the kneecaps. But yeah, this one was a lot of scratch building. It's a goofy design. Like, when I first bought it, I didn't look at. I was just at a hobby shop, and I saw the Bandai logo, but it had this 1980s artwork, and I bought it, got out to my car, opened it, and I was like, oh, this is like, it doesn't have pegs or anything. So 42 years old. So yeah, it was a great build. There's a lot of magnets in there too, because everything has to be glued very solid. So I just replaced a lot with magnets, and give myself a little bit of breathing room. Yeah, this is really fun.
Yeah, well, all the modifications and everything, even before you get to all the painting, it's all really cool. And then, but on top of that, the painting is just really, really good. I mean, one of the things that we talked about a lot in the judging was just how much we all really enjoyed the finish and the weathering on this. It's just a really, really good painting on top of everything else too. So
thank you.
You can see, like you were talking about earlier, about your very, very intentional weathering on it, right?
Yep.
And how you wanted it to, not...
Yeah, I just didn't want the weathering to get too out of hand with it being as big as it is. And just tried to be logical about like where it would actually get damaged in general. The little bullet holes on the upper, shoulder, like it seemed like that would probably catch some stray bullets or whatever. So very much tried to be intentional, because I didn't want to waste too much time hand brush chipping. I always hand brush my chipping. I mastered the art of chipping fluid.
Well, you mentioned about how big, and you're referring to how big like the machine would be in real life. This actual kit is actually not very big, is it?
No, it's the 1/100. I can grab it real quick if you want to see it. Give you like a visual.
Yeah, just to kind of see. I mean, I'm assuming that it's not necessarily a very large kit, but maybe it is pretty good sized.
It's about like standard master grade almost.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. So it
So
is a little bigger than I expected. Yeah.
yeah, if I had a master grade on hand, I'd show you the next one. It's shorter than a master grade, but wider.
Sure. But kind of similar overall in size, but
Yeah, similar.
mm,
This guy was super fun though. Like a lot of the ideas
mm,
were kind of spur of the moment, like the motorcycle exhaust sticking out of
yeah.
its
Uh,
undercarriage.
yeah. That's just plot plate, just plastic pipe parts,
Yep,
right? For that.
plastic tube with more plastic tube kind of telescoping, and
Mm.
even more. I think there's like 3 or 4 layers of plastic tube. I had to rebuild the hitch on the back. It came with the
That's what I
hitch,
was gonna say. It's got a
undersized.
cool little detail there.
Yeah. Yeah, it had a hitch in the original design, and I was pretty fond of it. It came with a bunch of like latches and stuff, but it's like that old model thing where they have like a lot
Mm.
of mold lines through them. They're not as defined, so I just
Oh,
stuff with like
yeah.
copper wire. So a lot of copper
Hmm.
wire bent in the shape.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And you can see to that note too, as far as like other metal parts used, like you got like the springs here out in the
Yep.
front,
Yep.
rather than
Wave
the nice
spring.
details there. Hmm. So yeah, that's been your contest entries thus far,
Yep.
so far.
Yep. I've done
And
a lot.
so,
I only missed out on the Apex contests like since I started.
yeah, I was gonna say, because just before this, I was pulling up some of your photos here, and when I checked the Apex contest, I thought, did he enter in the Apex contest? I must not
Nope.
have.
X model, and my work gets very busy around Christmas. Like I said, it's
Mm-hmm.
hair, so everyone comes in to get their hair done now, like November
Right.
through the. So that's what I have trouble doing contests this time of year.
Nah, it's all right. I'm sure at some point we may have another Apex contest someday, so you might have another chance. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
I'm actually
definitely.
not sure. After this PokePla contest, there's I guess probably a few other different ideas for different contests that I've had, but I'm not too set on exactly what's going to be next. So
Yeah,
I'll have to wait and see. But hope
I'm
that you'll
really.
enter the next one.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what people enter.
Mm.
I pretty much just check the hashtags all the time on Instagram and look at stuff that other people
Mm.
have going on because it's really intriguing to see what other people come up with. And
Mm.
I'm kind of limited since I'm only looking at Instagram. I don't have like a lot of other social media or anything. So
Mm.
I get really excited when people actually do share their work. So please do,
Mm.
share your work with the hashtag or
Oh,
something.
yeah, yeah. People, just so that you guys know, I mean, people have asked, and I've mentioned this, and I've said it a number of times. But yeah, I absolutely encourage people to share their work in progress during the contests. Some contests don't allow you to do that, and I don't really know why. But
Yeah.
yeah, you can
Yeah.
absolutely share your works in progress.
I'm only familiar with the contest that you do, but I'm
Well,
so glad it gives me a chance to
mm,
actually like
mm,
what a contest might be like and see other people's
mm.
work get out there.
Well, yeah, it's a good opportunity for you to just try different things as well too. Which is why I like to come up with the various different ideas rather than just like Gunpla all the time. But Gunpla contests are fun too, so I kind of like to
Yeah,
mix it up.
yeah.
Mm.
But you seem to be a
But
pretty, so it makes sense.
mm. Well, one thing you kind of touched on there for a second, I guess, before we wrap up, one thing that I meant to ask earlier, I forgot about, so I'm glad you mentioned it. But what would be some of your sources like for inspiration or motivation? I guess, what do you look to for ideas? Um, Different like books, magazines, other creators, or anything like that?
A lot of Google searching and just finding things
Mm.
and finding creators that way. There's actually one builder. I wanted to mention him. I was trying to find his name because we follow each other on Instagram, but I
Mm.
don't know. I know he shares a lot more on Twitter because that's actually where I saw his work
Mm.
at the beginning. I want to say it was like Jakoku or something. I cannot remember his name, but
I'm not sure.
man, I wish I could pull it up. What is his name? But I really love his work. He's definitely one of those
Mm.
builders. I see it. I feel like he's got such a I know it's his build before I even see his name. Like he's got a super style. He does a lot of just kind of really like grungy, almost like his weathering just looks so realistic. And I don't know. I love anytime he posts a single update, and he's very sparse with his updates, but I look forward to them. But I look at just tons of builders on Instagram. Ryan Lau, look at his work a lot. Love his work. Look at your work.
Yeah. I'm trying to work on some stuff. Hopefully you'll be able to see my Zaku here finished pretty soon. Like that, I'm finishing I'm gonna try to have that, at least all the build done by the end of this week, and maybe paint it next week. We'll see.
Oh, and Lincoln Wright. Look at a lot of Lincoln Wright stuff. You guys are great. He's a good video maker.
Yeah, he's got just a ton of knowledge and experience, so it's a really good resource for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so like I said at the start, there's a link to Nick's Instagram in the video description down below. I was going to ask if there's anything else you'd like to plug, but I think that's probably about it, right?
I don't use anything else anymore, so just Instagram's the one I like the most.
Understandable. So yeah, if you guys aren't following, you can check out his work there, or if you're not on Instagram, you can at least just go there and just check out his work. There's a lot more work in progress stuff. We were today just looking at just like all like the finished works, but you can see a lot more work in progress images there.
And I will get getting more work in progress shots. I suck at remembering it. When I'm in the zone, I'm just working. I don't take the time to.
But, you know who's really good at that is Ryan. Ryan Love's great at working progress shots.
I love looking at his Instagram. Everything on it so good.
He does like a full-on like photo shoot of his work in progress every few days. It feels like he's good at that, but it's something to strive towards for the rest of us.
You're right.
But anyway, so yeah, that's gonna do it for today, guys. As you may know, our other guest judge for this PokePla contest is Pixelli. I'm gonna be talking with her Thursday morning, so you guys can tune into that one. We'll kind of do the same thing with her, talk a little bit more about her works and her thoughts on the contest and everything so far. So tune in for that. Nick, thanks so much for coming on.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to add here just to wrap up?
Not really. I just love building my. Had to be part of something. So thanks for having me, Judge.
Yeah, happy to have you. I've been a fan of your contest entries, so I was looking forward to more and more works. So just keep up the good work, I would say.
Thank you.
All right.
Will do.
Yeah, that's gonna do it for today, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. See you next time.